I sincerely know that if I suit up and show up, God is going to do the rest. If I strap on that guitar, step toward that microphone, something is going to happen. I know who I am and I know who I'm not. And it literally has nothing to do with the person that sits before you. I mean, I know a handful of chords. I've never had a vocal lesson in my life, but I get up and do what I can, and He is faithful to use it every single time. He has literally not failed me once. Everywhere I go, every day, every time, everywhere, I believe something's about to happen here right now. Here we go. So Art lived here. We're twin boys, the same age as me. And at the end of the street, there were two more
the kids in the neighborhood to go to these
with a sister that lived just a few houses riding our bikes, you know, popping wheelies off these little. It was good times. You know, the older I get, the more and more gratitude just swells up in me for my mom and dad. My parents worked super hard to position us for success. And in the midst of that, their son got this wild idea one day, thinking that he was ready to take his bass guitar and tour the world. And when his dad gave the advice that maybe you should wait a couple years until you're a little older, their son rebelled against that decision, rebelled against their authority. And it was a short time after I made that decision to run away from home that I started experimenting with drugs. And then the chains of addiction, the weight of addiction is what ultimately came in and just totally swept me away as far as I could get from my family. You know, people measure their arrest record, and I looking back, it wasn't about arrests, it was about a rescue mission that was unfolding, you know. I didn't see it at the time, but looking back now, there's no doubt in my mind. That one of the most challenging things about being in prison for me was mail call. And each day it was like this reminder of every bridge I had burned and every relationship that I had abused or neglected or taken advantage of, you know. And it was a reminder that, you know, it's possible that I have damaged these relationships beyond repair. I may never be in my mother's life again. I may never sit at a table across from my father. I may never be invited to my sister's home again. But all of a sudden I received a piece of mail. However, I didn't recognize the name or the return address. So I sat down and I ripped into this envelope. I just couldn't wait. I was so excited. And what I pulled out is what I would call a Christianese Hallmark card. So it was basically like a greeting card, but it had a lot of religious overtones, telling me that, you know, I was loved by God and that kind of stuff. I remember being a little disappointed, and my head kind of hung low, and I got that card and put it back in what was left of that envelope. And then all of a sudden I thought to myself, man, it feels good hearing my name called at mail call. And if I'm honest, I didn't pay any attention to anything he sang about or anything he spoke about. But at the end, when he was all done, he said, I'd like everyone in the room to bow their heads and close their eyes. So I didn't close my eyes and I didn't bow my head. But at one point, that guy on the platform made eye contact with me, and I gave him a gesture like, you know, go ahead and proceed. And he continued to stare at me. He didn't blink, he didn't look away. So I used both hands and I kind of said, go ahead and proceed. And once again, he just stared intently at me, and I was getting a little angry and frustrated, but I'd come to the conclusion that the only way out of this room is to close my eyes and bow my head. So I was angry, but I complied. And that's when everything changed. And I bowed my head, closed my eyes, and immediately I saw two images right there. I saw my oldest and the youngest. There was a wave of guilt and shame. And I started to remember just every negative, selfish thing I had ever done. And I just could not believe that these girls had been handed me as a dad in this life. Like, I just couldn't believe it. Someone taps me on the shoulder and I open my eyes and it's another inmate. And all he says is, "You want to go up? You want to go up?" I blurt out, "Yes." And I found out very quickly what go up means. And he walked me right down the center aisle in front of God and everybody. Apparently we prayed a prayer to receive Jesus. I went back to my cell that night. Lights went out. My head hits the pillow. And the very last thought I had before I fell asleep is, what did you just do? Woke up the next day. First thought I had, all the cards I got twice a month, every month for over 2 years. So I leafed through them, found the one with the phone number.
This call will be monitored and recorded. Hello? Who is this?
Hello, this is Richard Andrews.
Have you given your life to Jesus yet?
I went up last night. Does that count?
Praise the Lord. Now it's time for you to speak in tongues. Here we go.
The phone call was 15 minutes. It felt like 15 weeks. And I took the receiver and I put it on the cradle and I stepped out of the phone booth and I made my way out onto the prison yard, and I just said, man, note to self, don't ever call the number again. Like, lose that number stat. I was horrified that I was going to get out. They were going to drop me right smack dab into the middle of where I came from, and I was going to pick up right where I left off as if I had never gone to prison. Get out, get high, and then it would just be a matter of time before I was in the revolving door that is the justice system and incarcerated again. I mean, I'm 24 years old when I got out of prison. Okay, I'm an adult male, and to be honest, the only thing my parents know about me at that time is that I'm an addict, is that I'm a thief, is that I'm a liar. But God bless them, they opened up their home anyway. If there was the slightest chance their kid could be free from this life, they opened their door. And that made all the difference for me. I had prayed a prayer in a prison chapel to receive Jesus at an altar call in the prison chapel, but I really didn't pursue a relationship with him straight away. I don't even know that I took that encounter really seriously at the time. And a condition of my parole was that I had to be in a 12-step program, and I found one at a local church. And there were men in the 12-step program that were active in that church's men's ministry. They took me under their wing, invited me to a men's ministry event, and literally that's where everything started to change. And God started to minister to me. He started to rewrite my story. He didn't come in and put Band-Aids on everything. He remade my life. I'm not walking around halfway being a son or halfway being a father. He remade me. So what it looks like today is that I've been the best son always that my parents have ever had. And I've been the best father that my daughters have ever known their entire lives. That's what it looks like today. You know what I mean? And I'm not boasting in myself. I'm boasting in the supernatural, restorative, and redemptive work of the cross of Jesus Christ. I mean, that's what it looks like in my life. Eventually, I got plugged into a local church, and I was passionate. I wanted to serve, and I told the pastor, what can I do? I'll park the car, scrub the toilets. He said, let's start here. What do you know how to do? And I thought for a second. I said, Pastor, I've just been a drug addict, a criminal. I don't know how to do anything. And he said, think a little harder. And I said, well, while I was in prison, another inmate taught me 3 chords on a guitar. And he said, fantastic, that's all you need to play every worship song known to man. So that's where I started. I started strumming 3 chords for a Bible study on Thursday nights. And on a Thursday night in a living room of a Southern California home for about 10 people, I sang for the first time in my life. And I'll never forget, the song I sang was Lord, I Lift Your Name on High. Never sang before, and I have not stopped singing since that night.
There's just such an anointing on his music, and it starts before he even starts to sing. There's something about the way he can just strum a guitar that changes the atmosphere of the room. When Richard begins to sing, it's somewhere along the way he just kind of slips out the back door, and everybody's just focused on God. And that's the beauty of your ministry.
Artists, and the moment you have been waiting for, the winner of the Best of the Blessed Solo Division for 2010 is Richard Andrews.
As close as my breath, only a whisper away. As I lay falling.
These are my two biological babies, Ryan and Taylor, and these are some pictures of them when they were babies. So you've got this little picture from a Halloween and just hanging out at the house and in the bathtub and in bathing suits. All of these pictures were taken while their dad was incarcerated, so I didn't actually see these events unfold in person in their life. I was behind bars, and if I wasn't behind bars, I was still just out in the street running amok and trying my very best to be the worst father that any girl could ask for. We had one of those playpens that you push the floor down and the four walls pop up. So her mother would leave the apartment. I would open the apartment door, walk outside with the playpen, push the floor down, four walls pop up, set it outside, get my infant daughter, put it in it outside, and I would go inside and I would get high. And in my mind, being as twisted as it was, I actually thought, I think I have this father thing down. Like, look how great I'm doing. I've got her safely outside while I'm inside getting high. Like, I am a really good, thoughtful, loving dad. That daughter that I set up for failure went on to graduate college with dual degrees, magna cum laude. I mean, I was standing there when she walked and got that diploma, and I just thought to myself, my God, who gets to do this?
Even when I don't feel it, you're working. You never stop working. You never stop working. Yeah.
These humans that we love to death, that we made. And I just want to encourage you to stay the course and stay the path, because there is hope in this situation, even though it seems hopeless, bro. Yeah.
Amen.
I'm going to be praying for you,
bro,
and for her.
You told my story.
Jesus.
Exactly. Man.
Jesus.
You know exactly how it is.
I'm excited about your future. This is not the end of this story. It's not by chance that you and I have come together right now, today. It's not by chance, I believe God orchestrated it. It's not about the film crew or about the documentary or any of that. It's just about you and me and God connecting us in this moment to encourage you that this is not the end and there is hope, and that things are going to be different, and they're going to be so different you're not even going to recognize your daughter's mom, your daughter, or yourself even. Yeah, there's good days ahead for you.
You knew exactly what I needed, man.
Jesus.
Next year came at a better time.
I love when he does this. I just love when he does this.
My favorite part about him is he'll go anywhere. You know, if God wants him someplace, he'll go. That's what I think I fell in love with most. When we first got together, it was so funny. We were kind of getting to know each other, and he said, "You want to come to a church service with me?" And I said yes. And then I watched him polish his guitar and get his sheet music all together and set out his clothes and iron them. And then we drove. I told him later, I didn't know where we were, for miles and miles to nowhere in the middle of the desert, to an abandoned strip mall where there was one place open and there had to be 6 to 10 people in the congregation. It doesn't matter if it was that or flying to Washington, D.C. It all means the same to him, you know? And that doesn't happen because you plan to go put on a show. He counts on God to be there.
And he's never failed me.
No.
He has never failed me.
Pressing on, pressing in, my beloved has called. Well, I've made it this far.
Hope goes a long way behind bars. It would be like being in a dark room and you light one candle and the whole room is affected by the one candle. It's the same thing.
There is this this connection, this full circle that he feels going into the prisons. It's a place of gratitude. It's a place of he could never give enough back for what God has done for him. And so it's an honor. It's an honor to go in there.
I never make the mistake of putting God in a box and thinking that I can define when he's moving or when his power is on display. So I don't need to necessarily see everything right now. I don't need everyone to walk by me and high five and say, I'm changed on their way out. But I go home knowing God did something in that place today, and thank you for giving me a front row to see it, period.
To him who sits on heaven's mercy seat.
And about 2.5 years after my release from prison, I was invited to a church where my pastor was invited to be a speaker. At the end of the service, I pack up my gear and I'm standing in the back of the sanctuary ready to leave. And there's a group of people having a conversation, maybe 6 or 8 feet from where I'm standing. And then I hear one word, clear, Rose. This went on a few times. After the 3rd or 4th time, I approached the group, and the person nearest me said, you have such a beautiful voice. And I said, well, thank you, and God bless you. I said, I overheard the conversation. Is your name Rose? She said, yes, it is. And I said, Rose, what's your last name? And she said, Gunn. My name is Rose Gunn. And immediately my mind flashed back to the return address on every one of those cards I got in prison. Twice a month, every month for over 2 years. As it turns out, she was writing inmates all over the country. And she had a seemingly thankless and fruitless ministry. She wasn't a wealthy woman, but she had a lot of time, and she could afford some note cards and stamps. And after doing it for years, one inmate walked up to her, and it was me. When Rose was on her deathbed in a nursing home, I was standing next to the bed, holding her hand, praying one of the last prayers she would ever pray this side of heaven. And in that moment, God really showed me, Richard, I orchestrated all of this for my servant Rose. I did not want her to pass from death to life alone because I didn't want her to be scared in this place. And because he's so good, he didn't forget about me, the knucklehead teenager who ran away from home to join the punk rock music circus. He didn't forget about me. And what did he do for me? Well, he put a new song in my heart. He has used me to literally travel around the country and the world, singing songs that he's given me and telling people a story about a little old lady named Rose. And over the years, we've seen thousands of people make first-time decisions for Jesus. This is her legacy. This is Rose's legacy continuing to unfold.